Hello, welcome back to the big stage brought to you by bettingexpert.com. In today's show, we have got previews for some of the biggest games of Game Week 23 in the Premier League, along with some best bets from, again, on board Rory Jennings, Ben Dinnery and Dan Jenkins. Now, chaps, I want to talk about that amazing comeback for Spurs last night, of course, coming from behind to beat Leicester in the last few minutes of the game. Ben, I'll start with you. Some memorable comebacks in your time as a Newcastle fan. Just give us some that maybe come to mind for you.
I think the 4-4 draw with Arsenal, where Giki Toyota volley to bring that back was one that's in recent, I suppose, relatively recent times. But another one that I remember fondly, funny enough, it also involved Leicester City, as when we beat them 4-3, and that involved an Alan Shearer hat-trick. I think it was something like the 77th and the 83rd and the 90th minute to turn that game around. We won 4-3. So brilliant scenes at St James's Park. I was there to witness it firsthand. So yeah, brilliant.
Happy days. Now, Rory, it must have killed you, right, as a Chelsea fan seeing Spurs make that comeback. But for you, I mean, any memorable moments you can pull out from your Chelsea days or watching Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a few. I mean, in fairly recent memory, Chelsea played Ajax, and I think we were 4-1 down, and the game finished 4-4. But the one there was loads of jeopardy, and ultimately it was how Chelsea ended up winning the European Cup. Is when we played Barcelona. We were 1-0 up from the first leg, but everything went wrong in the second leg. We were 2-1 down on the night. John Terry had been sent off for a foul on Alexis Sanchez, and we ended up getting a draw, but it felt like a win. Fernando Torres obviously rounding Valdez, and that was the moment. But in terms of comebacks, and like obviously the biggest comebacks ever, the ones that really resonate with me is two that stay firmly rooted in my mind up until last night's. Last night's is going to be the one, but you've got to mention Tottenham and Ajax, the Lucas Moura final. And I remember when I was quite young, I remember John Macken scored for Man City against Tottenham, and I thoroughly enjoyed that one as well. I think it was Man City, Tottenham in the cup. So yeah, I do love a good comeback, but I don't think we've ever seen anything, even on the scale of miraculous comebacks. What we saw last night, what Tottenham managed to do to Leicester, Steve Bergwijn, that is the biggest comeback that I think we have ever seen.
That was incredible. What was it, 20 seconds to go, and they managed to score twice in that time?
The clock was actually on. The clock was on 94:52, and Leicester were 2-1 up. The clock was 94:52, and they were 2-1 up. And they managed to lose the game. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Well, I mean, that touches on to the betting theme. I want to bring in Dan Jenkins here from Betting Expert. From the in-play side, I mean, what odds were Tottenham at that point?
Well, I had a look. They were about 80 to 1, 100 to 1, 150 to 1 with some bookmakers. Personally, I mean, if you're going to back a side to win with losing with 8 seconds to play, I don't think you'll see too much profit over a season. But if you got on it, good job to you. But I don't think it's the best strategy moving forward.
Well, I think, yeah, that's probably the point I wanted to raise, actually. Just in-play betting, maybe it is just for a bit of fun while you're watching the game. There's not much strategy to it in your so Dan, your point of view there. Where's the value really with in-play betting?
I mean, you can find some, but the margins aren't as good as the before match. I prefer to watch the markets and plan things a bit more in advance than the impulse stuff, but some people can find some value from it, but it's not for me.
Well, hopefully we will find you some pre-match value in today's show. The first key game we're going to look at is Everton against Aston Villa. So, of course, Rafa Benitez sacked by Everton. But for you, Rory, do you think this is the right time to let Benitez go, given what was going on at the Toffees?
I mean, it's the best time to let him go, aside from last week or the week before. I mean, the only time to let Rafael Benitez go from an Everton fan's perspective is as soon as possible. He should have never been given the job. It was always going to end this way. And yeah, there is no time like the present when it comes to getting rid of Rafael Benitez. If you're an Everton fan, I think that they probably held on to him for too long. He should have never been given the job. And Farhad Moshiri should hang his head in shame. Evertonians were telling you, the people who pledge unilateral aggressive loyalty to that club have told you, the people who commit their lives to following that club and their finances to following that club told you this was a mistake, and they were ignored. And that now what they're left with a completely demoralised club, the season in a shambles, and I can't see anything aside from an Aston Villa victory here.
I mean, who do you think would be the right appointment then moving forward that maybe suits the fans better compared to perhaps like a actual proven manager? Is there someone that stands out for you?
Yeah, I think for now there is quite a clear answer. Now, I think what they need today is somebody that can bring the harmony back to the Gladys Street, somebody that can unite the club. And it doesn't have to be a master tactician. It has to be somebody who can bring happiness and good vibes back to the club, who can get the players playing with a bit of pride for the badge on their shirt and just bring a bit of togetherness to make sure they don't go down. And I think that person is Duncan Ferguson.
Yeah, I wanted to bring in Dan here as well. Looking at that betting market, Duncan is the favourite actually to take the job full time. But Dan Jenkins, just give us some of your thoughts on the next manager here, where there could be some value in the market.
Yeah, Ferguson is the favourite. He did have a really good temporary stint in charge of Everton. That was back in 2019, I think. They beat Chelsea. I think they had a draw with Arsenal as well. To be honest, I'd be surprised if they gave him the job permanently. There are some big names on the list. I think Wayne Rooney's doing a pretty incredible job at Derby, all things considered. He's at 4.0, but I wouldn't be surprised if he'd prefer to see things out at Derby until the end of the season. But it's the kind of list where people don't really know what's going to happen. I think the expected names are on there, so I'm not really looking at any of the favourites right now. I think people would find value looking further down the list. There's always somebody that comes up out of nowhere and usually get the job.
I mean, yeah, just shout out to Wayne Rooney as well. What performance he's put in so far for Derby. It'd be miraculous if he actually does keep them up, given that 21-point deduction. But let's move on to the game itself. Everton coming up against Aston Villa. Of course, they've been busy in the transfer market together here. So Luca Dean has come into Villa from Everton and Anwar El-Ghazi gone the other way. But Ben, just talking about kind of injury worries going into this game. Conte, could he be back for Villa?
It's a hip pointer injury, which basically means it's impact on the actual bone. So it's not a soft tissue or a muscular problem. Very painful, needs to be managed. And that could be a late decision from Steven Gerrard. So that one might go right to the edge. The Villains, they will welcome John McGinn back into the squad, or certainly he's available after serving a one-match ban last time out. And there's going to be big question marks over whether Steven Gerrard decides to start Philippe Coutinho this week, of course, after his impact from the bench. Now, the issue at this moment is he's just lacking that little bit of match fitness and match sharpness. While he was in Spain with Barcelona, he was actually training away from the main group, and he contracted COVID. So that has had an impact on his base level of fitness. So he needs to sort of work his way up. I personally think that maybe this is it's a game too soon, and it could be after the winter break before we see Coutinho. On the opposite side, for Everton, they've had some horrendous injury problems all season, and Rafa has referred to those on many, many occasions as to why, the Toffees have stumbled of late. And we've seen DCL come back to the party in recent games. But, after 4 months out, again, it's going to take him a little bit of a while to get that sharpness. Richarlison, he was introduced from the bench last time out against Norwich, grabbed himself a goal. And also Yerry Mina, he's going to be in and around that starting 11, particularly given the fact that Everton defensively have been pretty woeful in recent times.
Now, of course, we spoke about comebacks as well. This does evoke memories. Aston Villa away at Everton back in 2008. Ashley Young grabbing a last-minute winner as well. But Rory, I want to get your view on Philippe Coutinho. How big a signing do you think that is, and the Stevie G effect taking hold at Villa?
Joe, I wanted to talk to you about this. I got a lot of stick from Aston Villa fans very recently because I said prior to Philippe Coutinho ever playing a game for Aston Villa, I'd said that they have signed a player who is now already the best player to have played for Aston Villa. Villa fans went mad at me. I didn't mean it as a disrespect to Paul McGrath or Dwight Yorke or, I don't know, Savo Milosevic, Alan Wright. I didn't mean it as any kind of insult. But am I right on that, Joe? Is Philippe Coutinho the best player to have ever played for Aston Villa?
Well, I mean, I would say probably, to be honest. I think he's the highest profile signing we've made in decades. I mean, that I can actually remember. It's usually us setting our best players onto other teams. So for me, it's more of a statement of intent from Stevie G. And to be honest with you, I'm so excited about Coutinho. I do feel like he is actually the best player. So I will actually agree with you on this point. I know the Villa faithful will be looking at McGrath, looking at Dwight Yorke as well. But we're here in the right and now, and Philippe Coutinho is the best player at the club. I think that's fairest to say. And it probably is one of the best players we've ever seen in the claret and blue.
Well, I wholeheartedly respect and appreciate your endorsement. I got a lot of grief though for saying that. I really did, but I think it's a huge signing. It's such a statement of who Aston Villa want to become. You know, they've got huge aspirations, a huge history that they need to build upon, but a fairly dodgy recent history. You know, they've been in the Championship. They only stayed up in the Premier League recently, didn't they? By a Rizzler paper. Jack Grealish scored that goal on the last day to keep them up. So I think that they've looked at it. They've said, never again. We're not going to go down. We're not going to flirt with relegation. And now they are aiming high and bringing in Felipe Coutinho, signing Luca Digne. And now there's talk about, did you see the talk about Luis Suarez?
That's what I wanted to bring up next. Yeah, I mean, he would probably take that honour of the best ever Aston Villa player if he signs.
Yeah, Felipe Coutinho would be gutted. He was that best player for Aston Villa for a week.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think now Aston Villa are as close to being the club that they once were. You know, obviously they have a huge, proud history, but we haven't seen that over the past couple of decades. I think they're as close to getting back to that former glory as they have been for years. So I think it's a massive moment, a huge signing. Bringing in Coutinho changes the entire shape of the club. I think it's a statement signing. It tells the world who Aston Villa are and what trajectory they're on.
Well, let's go to your prediction then, Rory. I think you kind of touched on it already here. Philip Coutinho to get on the score sheet, right?
Yeah, they smashed them. I can't see a world where Everton score. I think Aston Villa will score for fun. I think Aston Villa will win the game 3-0 and Coutinho will score. I'm convinced of that. That Coutinho, obviously, I'm sure he has like some loyalty to Liverpool. He's going back to the city of Liverpool to play against one of Liverpool's fiercest rivals. He's going to be double up for it. Already scored against Manchester United. I can't see a world where this is just obvious to me. I think Villa win the game easily. Coutinho on the score sheet.
Now, just to completely deflate everything for you, I want to bring in Dan and your prediction for the game. You see it a little bit differently, right?
Yeah, I'm going for Everton. I think I'll be backing them for the next few weeks. They've got some really winnable fixtures. I think after Aston Villa, they've got Leeds, Newcastle, Southampton in the next three. All are winnable games, as I said. And I think I'd be surprised if they didn't get at least 5 or 6 points from those 4 games combined. I mean, they've got great odds in the 1x2 for this one, but I'm not that confident. So I'm looking at the Asian lines. It's a bit of a coin toss with the bookies. They aren't really sure which way it's going to go. I think the handicap line is at 0. I talked about it when we had those new managers take over back in November, but there is usually a new bounce for the new boss. New managers come in and they win, I think it's 35% of their first matches in charge. In the first 5 games for the new boss, the points per game increases to 1.28 compared to 0.69 for departing managers. It's a pretty big difference, and I think it's something punters can find value from. We've already had 6 new managerial appointments this season. 5 out of 6 have had an immediate impact and seen an improvement in points per game over the first 5. The only one that hasn't seen an improvement was Dean Smith at Norwich, but things did improve over 10 games. I think the data works in Everton's favour, even if I don't think they're very good personally. They did lose this fixture last season, but they haven't lost consecutive home games for Aston Villa for a quarter of a century. My bet is Everton minus a quarter of a goal. That's at 2.35 with Mansion bet. So if the sides draw, then you'll get half your stake back. I do like those odds. I think this was almost my best bet of the week, so feeling pretty good about it.
Wow, quite a difference of opinion there from the experts. So I think, Ben, you can kind of have the deciding factor for us. Give us your shout for the game.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Villa in this one. Yeah, I'm expecting a little bit of a bounce and some kind of reaction from Everton, particularly with Duncan Ferguson. There's, some big personalities in that Everton change rooms, but we know that he's a straight talking, no nonsense kind of guy, highly respected. He will have the crowd, up. They'll be excited. There'll be a buzz. But I think after that, maybe first 15, 20 minutes, there'll be a lull. And we know that Everton just aren't a very good side. Their data this season has been bottom half over the last 6. That has regressed both their attacking metrics and their defensive metrics. Earmark this one as a 2-1 Villa away win. However, when I had a look at the data, 80% of their away games this season have finished with an odd goals total. And therefore, I'm going for a correct score. And I'm saying 2-1 Villa, and that comes in at 10-1.
Great shout. Good man. All right, well, let's move on to our next in focus game, and that is Man United against West Ham. So I want to kick things off with a discussion on what is going on again with Man United. We seem to touch on this subject every week, but then their last game against Brentford, they did win, but not very well. I mean, Brentford were all over them. We saw Ronaldo come off as well early. Yeah, they had discussions with Rangnick. He looked to be sulking. Rory, I want to get your thoughts on this. If you were in Ralph Rangnick's shoes, what would you do with that kind of reaction from Ronaldo?
I think it's so difficult. Do you know, I don't really know, because under normal circumstances, I think any kind of obvious and open disrespect to the manager, and it's almost irrelevant what you think of the manager. I hated, for example, what Kepa Arrizabalaga did to Maurizio Sarri at Wembley against Man City when he refused to come off. I had no love for Sarri. I desperately wanted Sarri out of Chelsea. I don't hold Sarri with any regard or respect, but the office of manager needs to be respected. So if you were disregarding and disrespecting the manager's position at your club, you are committing what for me is a cardinal sin. So I think it puts Rangnick in a very difficult position, because under normal circumstances, I would say that you shouldn't play. If you show open disrespect to your manager, you shouldn't play. But Cristiano Ronaldo plays by his own rules, doesn't he? Cristiano Ronaldo operates on a different level to everybody else, to almost every other footballer that's currently playing the game. So I don't really know. Is Cristiano Ronaldo too big to be dropped? It's more of a club signing, isn't it? It's more of a Manchester United signing and a Manchester United centrepiece. It's like the Tracy Emin artwork on the wall. You don't take it down, even if you don't really like Tracy Emin. I don't know. I really don't know how he handles this, because to play him is undermining, but to drop him, if you drop him and lose, everybody says, well, you should have played Ronaldo. So I think Ronaldo has put his manager in a really awkward position.
And Ben, let's have your perspective on this. I know you've had some maybe harsh words for Ronaldo and this kind of behaviour in the past as well, but let's have your take. How would you feel if this was a couple of Newcastle player against the manager like that?
I mean, it's difficult. We're talking about one of the world's, still in my opinion, still one of the world's greatest players. He demands the best. He puts himself out there and he expects his teammates to respond accordingly around him. He's a serial winner. He knows how to win. He has proven he can win. Look, I think he deserves some respect, and in relation to that, I'm maybe looking towards, maybe just giving, look, where you don't want to give him free rein to do whatever. I think he definitely deserves that level of respect where he should go, and the rest of the team, it should toe the line. I know not everyone will agree with that. It's difficult, but if he gets it, the issue is now, Manchester United are getting the results. It's maybe not as pretty on the eye, and you can argue, the likes of maybe the form of David De Gea has contributed that to massively. When they start stop getting the results, then, you can ask the questions. But for now, for me, look, him coming off and not being happy, what would you rather have? Would you rather have a player who, smiles and shakes the manager's hand and seems satisfied to come on the bench when he hasn't scored? Or do you want somebody that, is overtly upset and, is determined to go back out there on the pitch next time out and prove, the manager wrong and go out and get another 3 points from Manchester United?
I think, as fans, you'd only want the team to win, right? So it almost doesn't matter how the player reacts. But Ben, sticking with you as well, I think there are rumours regarding unrest in that United camp. We've heard it quite a lot. But Ralph Rangnick actually picked out a couple of players, maybe even doesn't rate them. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I mean, there has been a few whisperings with regards to the absence from the starting 11 of Harry Maguire. Also question marks with regards to Luke Shaw as well. They're two of the sort of names that's been bandied around, and he's approached the board and said, look, they're just not good enough to play in a Manchester United strip, and we need to replace those. I'm in wholehearted agreement with Luke Shaw. I am not his biggest fan. I've been banging this drum for a long time. The fact that they were talking about Shawdinho and his performance in the Euros irked me so much. I actually think
it wasn't Shawdinho.
If the truth be known, never mind, he's the best fullback in England. He's not even the best fullback at the club, and therefore, Talas deserves to be on that left hand side, and also Wan-Bissaka on the right with Diogo Dalot. He's another player that Ralph Rangnick has flagged concerns. And with regards to Maguire, I quite like the player at Hull and at Leicester, but he hasn't performed and he hasn't delivered at Manchester United. And maybe, you've seen with Victor Lindelof paired alongside Rafael Varane in recent games, maybe, those rumours are coming, home to be true.
All right, Rory, let's have your take on Luke Shaw then.
It was my issue wasn't with Luke Shaw per se. I mean, I don't rate him, and I think that Ben is pretty correct in his assessment. But he butchered the moniker that was given to Luke Shaw over the summer. It wasn't Shawdinho. That makes no sense. It was Shawberto Carlos. Like, if you're gonna do it, you've got to get it right. Shawdinho. That makes absolutely no sense.
All right, well, we have touched on one potential whinging Portuguese too, and I want to go over to another now, Bruno Fernandes. He's actually kind of stepped up a little bit in, well, Ronaldo's absence in the game before last night. So, Ben, I want to get your point of view as well on Fernandes. You pointed him out last time as well that he could step up, and he did since we last spoke. So how does he go from here when Ronaldo starts?
Yeah, well, we've seen Bruno in the past typically deployed in that number 10 role, just off the striker, whether that be Ronaldo or Cavani, even Mason Greenwood at times. But Ralph Rangnick said he prefers Bruno to play in that little bit of a deeper role. He can open up the pitch, he can see the space in front of him, and he can step up that. And he thinks he reads the game a lot better. And he's shown that in the last two games with the performances that he's produced, that he is capable of playing in that number 8 role. So I think for the immediate and the short-term future, Bruno Fernandes will be deployed in that little bit deeper because, he's shown, proven by his performances, his results, his assists and his goals that he's more than capable of doing that and delivering.
All right, well, let's go into the game itself, Man United against West Ham, of course. Now, Dan, I want to highlight Man United's home form of late. Is that a concern for you going into this match?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Old Trafford is no longer the fortress it once was it? I think United would be 9th in the table if only home matches counted. I think they've lost 4 of the last 8 Premier League games at home. They've played Wolves, Burnley and Crystal Palace in their last 3, and I think they've generated under 1 expected goal in 2 of those games. So, yeah, I'm looking at the visitors here for my bet. I think West Ham have been a lot more consistent away from home. I think only Manchester City, Chelsea and Liverpool have taken more points on the road than them this season. They actually won away at Old Trafford in the League Cup back in September. So it's not as if they haven't got a result here before. I'm back in West Ham plus a quarter of a goal. That's at 2.30 with Mansion bet.
Also, if you look at the defensive frailties of Man United, I want to highlight the fact that they've actually conceded more than bottom place Burnley in the league so far this season. A curious fact there. But Rory, your take on West Ham again and how they can do here at Old Trafford?
I think they can win. I think we've seen with West Ham already this season that they have the minerals to beat top teams. I think they've already beaten Chelsea, they've already beaten Liverpool, they've already beaten Man City and Manchester United, haven't they? I know that the majority of those have been at home, but I think they've proved that they can mix it. The fact that they got that defeat last week means that if they are to be genuine contenders for top 4, which I'm inclined to think they are, they're going to have to win this game. They can't drop points to Leeds in the nature that they did and then lose to Manchester United because the gap will become insurmountable. Whereas if they can get back to winning ways at Old Trafford, I think that they're back on track and they're back within genuine possibilities of making the top 4. So I think they'll win the game. I really do. I think Manchester United's home form is appalling. I thought Manchester United against Brentford was so lucky. And there's no reason to be scared of Manchester United. The only reason that we're scared of them is because we're indoctrinated because we were all very aware of the 90s. Like if you come into it now, Manchester United aren't the team to be scared of at all. And I think West Ham are a real contender.
Well, on the flip side then, Ben, I'll bring you in for your prediction because you maybe are looking at Man United being a bit more of a force than our other 2 experts.
Yeah, I actually think this will be a horrible game to watch. And I'm not a big fan of Manchester United, by the way, and I do love what David Moyes has been doing with the Hammers during his tenure there. However, I just think there were just signs in that West Ham United squad last weekend of a little bit fatigue creeping in. We know in terms of availability, they've been, done really well this season, but those, Europa League fixtures, back-to-back Premier League fixtures, and of course a tight festive fixture period, it's maybe just beginning to catch up by his own admission. David Moyes said he hasn't been able to rest some players as much as he would like, Mikel Antonio being one of those. And of course, the absence of Thomas Souček last weekend. He's been out with COVID. We're not sure how he's going to recover, especially in terms of it's a respiratory problem. And in defence, the Hammers haven't been great. Kurt Zouma, he was a player that was maybe earmarked for a return this weekend. But again, COVID has hampered his return. So, taking all of those things into consideration, and the form of David De Gea, I think it's going to be pretty tight. But I'm on the opposite, the polar opposite to Rory on this one. I'm going Manchester United for a win 2-0, possibly 1, maybe even 2 if Bruno gets himself into gear.
All right, well, that wraps it up for our preview of Man United against West Ham. We're now going to go to our final in-focus match, and that is Chelsea against Spurs. So, Rory, as our resident Chelsea fan, I'm going to start with you. And the home form of Chelsea at the moment, I mean, it leaves a little bit to desire, does it not?
Oh yeah, you're not kidding. I mean, it's been appalling. It's been draw after draw. I mean, I think aside from the game where we played Leeds and stole stole the 3 points, we were due a point, and then we got a last-minute penalty when Rudiger went over fairly easily. I think that would have made it 5 draws in a row at home. And in that period, we would have played Burnley and Manchester United and whoever else. So it's looking fairly troublesome at Chelsea. I thought that our performance against Manchester City was really dire, really lacking on so many levels. And Tottenham scare me. I don't think that we can read too much. I know that Chelsea have made very light work of Tottenham recently, but I don't think we can read too much into those cup games. I don't know how seriously Antonio Conte was taking them. Certainly by the second leg, they were resting players because they thought they had a North London derby coming up and they'd almost written it off because of the score in the first leg. So I don't think there's too much to be taken from that. Equally, I rate Antonio Conte so highly that I'm always going to be fearful. But Chelsea are better than Tottenham. Chelsea are European champions. Chelsea can beat Tottenham, as we've proved already multiple times this season. So if we get it right, we're going to be fine. But I am more nervous than I have been going into a Chelsea-Tottenham game, maybe ever.
Oh, it's mad. I mean, yeah, you touched on there the playing styles of Thomas Tuchel and Antonio Conte as well. How do you think that will actually shape up in terms of the spectacle of the game when it is like on the big stage of the Premier League?
Yeah, I think the systems are going to be very interesting. I think Antonio Conte will do his 5 at the back because everything that's good about Chelsea is our fullbacks, and this is the problem that I have in what's going on at the moment. I don't hold Thomas Tuchel accountable. I think there are multiple problems at the club that need to be ironed out, and we're in a fairly perilous position. But Thomas Tuchel is generally getting it right. There are certain things he's getting wrong. Of course there are. Like when you're the manager and your team are dropping points the way they are, of course the manager is culpable to a degree. But the one thing I have an issue with is his keenness to pursue a system that relies so heavily on fullbacks when we don't really have any fullbacks at the club. The system that he has employed that does so well is amazing when you've got the 2 best fullbacks in the league playing for your club. If you've got Chilwell and Reece James, you can play that system. If you've got Cesar Azpilicueta and Marcos Alonso, you have to adopt a different system because those 2 can't do what the 2 that are out can do. And I think Tuchel's got that wrong. I think dropping Mason Mount was wrong. I think persisting with Romelu Lukaku was wrong. But as much as he is accountable, he is also the solution to our problems. He's an elite level manager. And the game of chess is going to be played out in the dugout is almost as exciting as the game that's going to be on the pitch. But like I say, I am nervous because the win that Tottenham got against Leicester is really going to inspire them, isn't it?
Well, that's what I was going to ask next. I mean, how much energy do you think Tottenham will take into this one after that, incredible comeback?
No, I disagree. I don't think if you're positioning the question that are Tottenham going to be knackered, I disagree. I think that it would have the opposite effect. I think a result like that, a win in those circumstances, is it's galvanizing. It's almost like endorphins, but beyond anything you can imagine. I can't think of anything that the Tottenham players will be apart from like totally invigorated. They won't be fatigued by that. I imagine they'll be buzzing for their next game, desperate to play. I think that a win like that can be season defining, and that's what troubles me.
And Ben, I think it's time to bring you in here as well from an injury update point of view. No Son, no problem, it looked like, for Spurs in actually getting that win.
Yeah, I mean, step ups to Harry. He's certainly come into form under Antonio Conte after that pretty disastrous start of the campaign under Nuno Espirito Santo. Grabs a goal and an assist. Some people saying that he's back to his best after the performance against Leicester on Wednesday evening. Maybe not his best, but certainly improved vastly. He needed to in the absence of Heung-min Son, who has been probably Tottenham's standout player this season. But overall, the Tottenham squad is fairly fit and healthy. And we know Christian Romero, he's been out for around 2 months. Likely that would be after the winter break for him. But also Eric Dyer, he's been a big player as well under Antonio Conte, getting touted as possibly being one of the future best defenders in the world. A slight muscular problem is expected to keep him out.
And also, just to bring in Dan here from a betting point of view, Rory touched on the fact that defensively, that's where the managers might be thinking. So for you, does that point to a kind of more dull, low-scoring affair?
Yeah, I mean, I got burned last week with the Manchester City-Chelsea game. I should have got under goals and I went over. I'm not going to do the same thing here. As you said, guys, it's two of the best defensive managers in Europe. They've already played each other 3 times this season. 2 of those matches had under 2.5 goals. All 3 had at least 1 clean sheet. So I was looking at backing no on both teams to score. I like that bet at around 2.0 with most bookmakers, but I've gone for under 2.5 total goals. I think that opens things up for the 1-1 draw, for example. Chelsea have drawn 5 of the last 6 at home, as Rory said. 4 of them were by that scoreline, 1-1. So I wanted to include that in my bet. Looking at Spurs, I think they've averaged 2.53 total match goals in the Premier League this season. Only Brighton and Wolves have a lower figure than that. They haven't scored in 5 of the last 6 league games against Chelsea, so I wouldn't be surprised if they got shut out here, even if Sir Harry is back in top form. I'm going for under 2.5 goals. That's a 1.94 with SBK.
Now, Rory, I know you're going with kind of a different route into this match. You're going for over on the goal line. But is this the kind of game that you want Romelu Lukaku to actually show Chelsea fans what he's capable of?
Any game would be nice for that. I mean, any game between the start of the season and now would have been nice for that. But yeah, if there is a game where he's going to come alive and genuinely show us that he is this world-class player that we were led to believe he is, do it against Tottenham. I mean, look, for me, I will never forgive Romelu Lukaku for his conduct. Romelu Lukaku doesn't want to play for Chelsea. We know that. He has no love for Chelsea. We know that. He's a narcissist who prioritises only himself, finds happiness only through self-gratifications. And we know all of the above. But at some point, Chelsea's interests and Romelu Lukaku's self-interest can merge and become the same thing. And that is certainly the case against Tottenham. I won't forgive Romelu Lukaku, but it will go a long way to healing the rift. If you score a winner against Tottenham, you live in folklore. Tore-Andre Flo scoring a hat-trick at the Lane when we put 6 past them. George Weah scoring with his first touch when he came on. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank when we beat them 4-0 twice in 3 days. The amount of winners that you can think. I mean, Kieran Trippier scoring an own goal at the Bridge. Sammy Eto's got if you score against Tottenham, you almost immediately become etched in folklore. The reason why Marcos Alonso is so well loved at Stamford Bridge is pretty much because the year that Tottenham were going to win the league, when they played at Wembley, their first game at Wembley, where they played that season there, their first game was against Chelsea. They were set to win the league because that's how it was all. That was the narrative. And Marcos Alonso scored 2, and we beat them 2-1. I mean, that was a brilliant moment, and Marcos Alonso has basically etched the Chelsea career off that fact ever since. But I'll love him forever for doing that.
If it's not going to be Lukaku then, but where are the goals coming from, do you think?
Yeah, and it won't come from him, by the way. In terms of where they'll come from, I mean, we need the likes of Mason Mount to step up, because I think Mason Mount has been fine this season. I think he's 3rd top goal scorer at Chelsea and top of the assists. So he's doing all right, but by his own standards and certainly by his form last season, particularly the first half of last season under Frank Lampard, he isn't really performing to his maximum. So it'd be nice to see him step up a bit. But where the goals are going to come from is a problem, because I don't rate Pulisic that highly. I don't rate Hakim Ziyech that highly, despite what he did for us in Portugal. I don't really rate Kai Havertz that highly. So I don't know. I really don't know. But when Chelsea play Tottenham, Chelsea win the game. Chelsea call it 3-point lane for a reason. Chelsea went a ridiculous, I think, 27 years without losing to Tottenham at Stamford Bridge. I mean, when I was a kid, even up until the first time they beat us there, the winning goals in Chelsea-Tottenham games at Stamford Bridge, it was scored by Gary Lineker and then Dele Alli. That's how long the two winners were. So yeah, I'm inclined to think that Chelsea will win the game, but like I said at the top of this segment, I'm not really looking forward to it. It's definitely the most frightened of Tottenham I have been ever.
And of course, with your bet, I know you don't particularly want to say it, but it does open the door for Spurs to actually score a lot of goals as well. Perhaps you don't want to say it, but if a Harry Kane hat-trick comes along, then your bet could still be a winner. All right, well, let's move on to Ben in your prediction
what are you doing
for the
to
game.
me? Why would you say that?
Yeah,
I know you don't want to say it, but it does open it up. Go on, Ben.
Yeah, I'm probably nearer to Dan than I am Rory in terms of where I expect this one to go. I had this penciled down as a draw. I think it'll be pretty tight. And again, another drab affair. The billing doesn't often transfer, to the performance on the pitch. I'm thinking 1-1. But if any team were to nick it, then I just think momentum, particularly after the result against Leicester, does favour Tottenham. And therefore, the bet that stood out for me was the Tottenham draw no bet. And you can get 3-1 if you fancy the Tottenham to nick that. And of course, money back if it is all square after 90 minutes.
All right then, chaps, let's move on now to our best bets of the round. And hopefully, Rory, you can have a little bit more say and redeem yourself there. Let's go. All right, so for the best bets of the round, Rory, I will start with you. And you're looking at the Leeds game. You think they are going to make easy work in their match?
Yeah, I think Leeds will. Look, Leeds are playing Newcastle. It's almost not really about Leeds for me. It's about Newcastle. They have just been so uninspiring. Eddie Howe's got so much wrong. The signing of Chris Wood really hit me. I thought they were going to sign Mbappe. Like, that's what we were led to believe. And they signed Chris Wood. I genuinely believe, I'm going out on a limb here, that probably putting myself out for a fool. But I think in a few years, the signing of Chris Wood will be a statement. One of those things that you can say if somebody buys somebody ridiculous in the January transfer window, a signing that is so expensive to no avail, you'll Chris Wood the situation. I think it's going to become natural, everyday parlance for a Rickett. And that is what I think will happen. Leeds were brilliant last week, and I think that Leeds will continue their momentum to safety.
And Ben, let's have your reaction there as our resident Newcastle fan. I think, you're in full agreement by the looks of your best bet.
Yeah, look, it's hard to disagree with anything at the moment. I mean, we're bad. Let's not sugarcoat it in any way, shape or form. We need players in this January window. Otherwise, we're gone. We're gone to the second tier. Can I see us getting a result down at Ellen Road? Absolutely not. And so it's one of those rare occasions that I do agree with Rory. Even with a -2, I actually had Leeds down as 3-1. So I went Leeds and both teams to score. Now, we know that Leeds don't defend set pieces very well, and they don't handle big physical centre forwards. Chris Wood, former player, up against his old team. I fancy maybe Trippier or San Maxim to put one on the plate for him. But Newcastle, our problems really lie in defence. I think we have the worst XG conceded over the course of the season. And I just can't see us keeping Leeds at bay. The likes of Rafinha, they're going for 3 wins on the spin. They were hovering precariously close to that relegation zone, but back-to-back victories and a great result at West Ham last time out has carried them away. Yes, they have lots of injury problems, but that starting 11 is more than strong enough to do a job over Newcastle, unfortunately.
All right, and Dan, we'll move over to you now for your best bet of the round as well. Impacting Leicester, obviously, they fell apart against Tottenham, but take us through your best bet for the round this week.
Yeah, I mean, I like bashing Newcastle as much as the next guy, but I'm going for Brighton to get a result against Leicester. I actually made this bet before the midweek matches, but I have a lot more confidence in it after seeing Leicester's defence against Spurs on Wednesday. They were just cut open so easily, and I think Brighton can get a result here. They've only lost one of the last 10 away games in the Premier League. I think that's kind of going under the radar a little bit. I'm going for Brighton +0. That's at 2.11 with Bet365. If the sides draw, then you'll get your money back. Plus a quarter of a goal is another good option. That's at 1.78.
Great stuff. All right, I think we can just quickly review some of the best bets from last week just to show you how our guys got on last week. some actual decent results. Dan and Ben were in profit. Rory was down, unfortunately. Of course, the North London derby was called off. But yeah, some good bets there from the guys. Diogo Jota as well had plenty of chances, Ben. You must be a bit disappointed with that bet.
Yeah, massively disappointed when you see Liverpool scoring 3 and the main man not actually getting on the score sheet. That one hit hard, but I'd rather him blank totally than just get the 1, and just miss out on the bet. So the fact that he didn't get on the score sheet overall and that bet lost is, that's my silver lining.
All right, well, let's pull up the reminder of this week's best bets as well, just so you've got them there on screen. So yeah, plenty of value, hopefully, to be had from our experts. And also we've asked the guys to pull up their picks for the rest of the round as well, so we can pull those up now. Notable ones, I think, Dan, you've gone for Brentford to beat Wolves. I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, what did you see from Brentford against Man United to make you think that Brentford could actually get a result here against Wolves?
I thought they were unlucky to. I don't think it was a match that reflected the 3-1 scoreline. I think Brentford were a lot better than that suggests. I think they do a win. Wolves, I think, have been overperforming a little bit. They starting to concede more goals. I just got a feeling. I can't explain it more than that.
And Rory, I think I wanted to point out one of your picks as well. I know our producer Hans isn't going to be happy about this one. We are expecting Burnley to get a draw against Arsenal.
Yes, nothing controversial there, though, is there, Joe?
I wouldn't say
Didn't
so.
they win
No.
there last season? I'm sure they won there last year. So I think Arsenal have improved.
No Chris Wood though.
No Chris Wood.
That's to
a
their
good
benefit.
Point. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for our picks and predictions. Of course, if you've got your own picks, then head on over to bettingexpert.com where you can submit your tips and then hopefully then actually compete for prizes every month. But for Ben Dinnery, Rory Jennings and Dan Jenkins, I've been Joe Ryan. Thanks a lot for watching this edition of The Big Stage. And if you do place a bet, please do gamble responsibly.